Next is an email from Lanny in St. Simons. How much does the Supreme Court ruling on the Voting Rights Act change things in Georgia? Will there be another round of new maps?
Yeah, great question, Lanny, and we're still trying to figure that answer out. But the answer is likely yes, just not in time for the 2026 midterms. This was a response to the Supreme Court ruling a couple days ago that really weakened a key part of the Voting Rights Act, that landmark bipartisan act that passed in the 60s. It changes the nature of Georgia politics, really. We're just not sure how much. There are already calls for Governor Kemp to call a special session immediately. It seems way too close to the midterm elections to have any sort of change to this year's map. And I can't completely rule it out because I can see what's happening in Louisiana. That was the heart of the case where the governor's already canceled the primaries. So there are examples of this, potentially changing the map for this year in other states. I just can't see Governor Kemp doing it. I can't rule it out either. But what I do suspect is the governor will call a special session this year to change the maps for future years. And one of the reasons why the rush? Well, one of the reasons is Republicans can't be certain that there will be a Republican governor after this year. And so they'll want to make these changes while they're certain that there's a Republican governor and a Republican majority in the General Assembly. Why take the risk? Democrats are saying that they're trying to lock in a Republican future right now, even as Democrats are threatening to flip the governor's wrench and have an outside shot at flipping the Georgia House.
Yeah, just as soon as that decision came down from the Supreme Court, we did see a number of Republican statewide candidates rush out to say there should be a special session, or in the case of Burt Jones, I endorse the idea of changing these maps. Now, Rick Jackson and Greg Dolezal both called for a special session as soon as possible to change the maps. It felt to me like that had something to do also with President Trump, who is so hyper digital on social media all the time. It is so important to President Trump right now to redraw the maps across the country to favor Republicans, to help them in the midterms. But I completely agree with you. It's too late to do that here in Georgia. In Louisiana, early voting had not yet started, and that's where the Republican governor has signaled his plan to move the primary back and redraw the maps before that process begins. But here in Georgia, early voting had already been underway for nearly a week when this decision came out. And it does also feel like Governor Kemp is kind of looking at his legacy, and how he proceeds over the next several months is going to be a big part of that legacy. And it also feels like Republicans are worried they may not control this state in the future, even next year. Mm-hmm. And so I think you've got exactly the right read. I do think there is likely to be a special session. I don't think it will affect these primaries, but you can feel the urgency among Republicans in this state to squeeze as much power as they can out of the congressional maps and the legislative maps. This would affect state legislative seats as well as the state House and state Senate seats. So I think the momentum is going. I just don't think they've hit the gas on it.
Let me add one little thing to that, too, is that I think that there will be a talk of a special session in December of this year anyway. And the reason why is because we saw the same thing way back in 2018, when Governor Deal issued basically a summons. I don't think he formally called the special session, but he alerted lawmakers before the election that there will be a special session at the end of the year to deal with some financial. I can't remember exactly what it was. And yes, there was a need to deal with the budget, but it was also looked at as a hedge, just in case Stacey Abrams won that race back in 2018, for Republican lawmakers to come in and look at ways to rein in the executive power if she had won. Of course, they didn't need to do that part of it because Brian Kemp won the election. But I would not be shocked if there is some sort of talk by the fall of a special session in December, no matter what, that could be looked at as in case a Democrat wins the governor's race, to start making those moves. And if, of course, the Republican wins, there won't be any talk of such action to rein in the executive branch powers.